Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us for another PVALC live stream. It's the first day of December, and the weather is nice and cozy outside. Today, we are joined by Nico Cadena. I hope I said your last name correctly, Nico, from StoryCorps. They have a wonderful opportunity for West Texas and the Permian Basin that he's going to tell us all about. So welcome, Nico, all the way from New York.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me, Alva. It's a great pleasure to be with you and everyone joining on the live stream. So again, my name is Nico Cadena as well. I am working alongside StoryCorps and our mobile tour. My title is I'm the manager of community partnerships, talking to organizations all over the country who want to participate in what we do at StoryCorps.
So tell us a little bit about StoryCorps. I mean, I'm very familiar with StoryCorps. I always listen to it, like I mentioned, on the morning edition on public radio, and I know that y'all are partnering with our local NPR station here, Marfa Public Radio, which we love following and listening to. So tell us a little bit about what StoryCorps is, and then tell us a little bit about your virtual tour that you're partnering with Marfa Public Radio.
Absolutely. So for those of you who don't know, StoryCorps is a large national nonprofit. We are a storytelling-based nonprofit that leans heavily on what is called oral history or an oral history tradition. The way I like to say it is that it's basically like a storytelling archive or a collection of voices from all over the country. We started in about 2003 with a pop-up booth in New York City's Grand Central Terminal. The founder of StoryCorps, a man named Dave Isay, had the idea that everybody should be able to feel like their story really matters and that they really have stories to tell. So this booth, what would happen is that folks that would just kind of be wandering through Grand Central Terminal or would just happen by it could just basically walk in, make an appointment, and record a conversation that mattered to them along with a loved one. They were invited to come in with friends, family, mentor, mentees, teachers and students, grandparents and their grandkids, and share an uninterrupted 40-minute conversation. This conversation is then recorded in what we call a professional grade recording, so a really nice sounding recording, so that folks can take that home and keep it in their own archive or keep it for themselves. Since 2003, when we started, the project just really exploded into this large traveling collection of booths and recording studios. We've traveled all over the country recording these types of unedited, uninterrupted conversations. And we have partnered with the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C. to actually archive these conversations for generations to come. So since 2003, we have amassed an archive of over 80,000 recorded conversations from all across the country. And we've also launched our very own iOS app that allows people to record independently from us, from any of our booths, etc. And with that app, we've actually recorded over 100,000 conversations. So it's considered one of the largest oral history archives in the country. And so in one way, we record in a very specific way. It's an open conversation between two people that know each other. And then we also have the archival component, where we archive conversations for generations to come. But we also have a large public media presence through local NPR stations, on PBS. NPR broadcasts one of our recorded segments every Friday morning on their morning edition program. So those are.
I was going to say, I just heard a StoryCorps story this morning on Marfa Public Radio, and it was a gentleman that was having a conversation with one of his best friends, and he was talking about growing up in I can't remember the name of the town, a small town near El Paso, and he was talking about his dad telling him that yes, you need to learn English, but don't forget your other language, Spanish, because, a person that knows several languages is worth more money. It's worth $1 million. And it was just a very interesting story. And I think, being a literacy center here where we teach, ESL and literacy, I thought our students would find that story so interesting.
Yeah.
Because a lot of them, they feel sometimes embarrassed that they don't know English and they only know Spanish or, Vietnamese or some other language. I'm like, no, the more languages that you learn, the more valuable you are. So just stories like that. It doesn't, I think people sometimes get caught up and saying, I don't have a compelling story to tell, or I don't have anything going on in my life. This gentleman was just talking about how his dad just told him that he needs to continue to learn several languages and things like that. So what, Nico, tell us the importance of stories, and that every story, every voice has meaning.
Thanks for that. That's a really wonderful question. I think it gets at the core of what we do at the organization. I'm going to really quickly just say that one of the wonderful things about how we record these conversations is that it does feel a little bit different than if you were in front of a camera for a documentary or in a radio interview with an interviewer. We try not to have anyone that comes in with an interviewer or a mediator or somebody guiding the conversation. We like to say that these are services for anyone who comes in, like a public service for folks to come in and really feel like they can write their own record. And I think that part of the value that we're talking about.
It's a casual conversation. It's like having a casual conversations. It's like most of the StoryCorps that I listen to. It's not like edited or anything like that. It's just two people having a conversation about things.
It can be, sometimes folks like to use the space to have really serious conversations, remember important stories from their past, from their family's past. Other folks come in to just kind of treat it like you're having a cup of coffee with a friend. And the really cool thing about it is that since you're coming in with a friend or a family member or somebody that's really important to you, it can take a lot of the pressure off of talking, in a regular television interview or a radio interview or anything of that sort. And I think that what it teaches us, it kind of teaches us the value of storytelling on many levels. On one level, it's really a historical kind of service that we're giving. We want people to feel like their stories and their voices are going to be preserved for generations. Now, I think that for me, for example, like having a recording of my grandparent or my great-grandparent in and of itself is an article of value and something that I just would really treasure if, like, my great-great-grandkids could hear just like a real well-recorded 40-minute snippet of my ancestors' lives. Like, the value that has is immense for future generations to be able to preserve their own historic record. And I know that, you might be thinking, well, today we have social media, today we are sharing photos and stories and videos like never before. But there really is something very different about having an intentional 40-minute dialogue with a loved one. Sometimes people can say, like, I do this maybe around the dinner table, or I do this like we have our Sunday morning picnic. But it's very different when you have, no phones, no distractions, and really kind of are thinking, oh, I want this to be something that's meaningful for me and the person I'm with. So,
so those stories are not forgotten either, because like I mentioned before we went live, I was telling you that I have some great memories of growing up as a little kid in Artesia, New Mexico, and riding our bikes and going to the store and buying 10-cent bubble gum, and we just thought that was just amazing that we had $1 and we could buy all kinds of 10-cent candy, and then ride our bikes around, and then go to the playground and I mean, they don't have these anymore, but they used to have those metal slides, and even if it was, 100 degrees outside, we would burn our legs because we just had so much fun sliding down those slides. And just stories like that,
Yeah.
that you don't want to forget, and you reminisce about when you get together and you're like, oh, remember when we used to do that? That was hilarious. And
Yeah. Campfire stories are some of the funnest and most wonderful and most compelling to hear. Simultaneously, they're also the funnest to tell. When I know that like sometimes folks like to come in and say like, oh, like you said, I don't have a really compelling story. I've never lived through any sort of like big conflicts or resolutions or et cetera. But like sometimes I oftentimes like to say that whatever holds most important to you and most meaning for you is really kind of like, that's the stuff you want to have recorded. So people ask questions like, hey, describe to me, the house you grew up in, your childhood home, and get those kind of wheels turning and being like, oh, like I loved, like we had this wonderful tire swing in the front, like hanging from a tree branch. Like that is exactly the type of thing that like you want to have kind of recorded regarding your own life that will eventually have value for generations to come, to really paint a picture with words, and have this sort of evocative moment for yourself and for folks that will listen to the recording in the long run.
For generations to come,
Exactly.
And I love, for my nieces are now so older that they're having kids. I'm like, we need to record these stories so they can hear them, because when they're grown, probably some of these things probably won't even exist anymore.
Yeah. And I think sometimes, what I like to say is that I always think that the moment to record narratives or stories is kind of now, because moments pass and to capture a very specific feeling is kind of like an immediate thing. So nowadays we're traveling all over the country. We are recording stories every day. A lot of folks, are living through very like unique moments. And I think everybody's feeling like a very unique moment now with either coronavirus or the shutdowns or just like the election year. It's been a crazy year, and so everywhere we've gone, people have had something to say that really kind of shapes a historical moment. And I think that we're all in it kind of together, and to hear people collectively talking about what they're going through is something that I think is also really valuable, just like for the historic archive of, let's say, the Library of Congress. So there's also there's the nice thing about like being able to tell like the stories that are really meaningful to you, but also realizing that we are trying to add this a large national history book, and the importance of that. Mm-hmm.
Yes. And, and that's a great segue to tell, this is a great opportunity for organizations to tell their stories. Our students here at the Literacy Center, they just have such compelling stories, and we're always trying to get them out of them. And I think this would be a great opportunity to just sit down with maybe one of their friends and say, hey, I moved here to the United States, and I wanted to learn English, or I had issues. I've always had, we had a student here that is in her 60s and is now just learning how to read properly. And just, this is an opportunity for organizations to tell their stories. And, all the nonprofit consultants out there tell us, stories is the way to go. It will get people's attentions. It will inspire action for your organization. It will further spread your message and brand. And so this is an opportunity that, StoryCorps is coming to West Texas, Permian Basin.
Mm-hmm.
Don't miss out on this opportunity. I saw a post from the Literacy Council of St. Petersburg, and they had posted a story about a lady. She was a great-grandmother from Louisiana, and she lived through the Civil War and just had a very interesting story. But she said, the moment that, I was a free slave, but the moment that I knew I was really free was when I learned how to read and write.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, that tells you the power of literacy. And we'll
Mm-hmm.
be sharing that video and that story after our live stream here, so you could see it. But I mean, talk about the power being able to tell the literacy story for our in particular. So talk a little bit about that.
That story is one of my favorite stories that we've recorded with StoryCorps. It's Aunt Sylvia, I believe her name is, and
Yes,
that's a really fantastic story, and I'll describe it. But I really urge everybody to just kind of click the link in the description or whatever is shared of this live stream. That story is really interesting because you have this. Now she is a much older woman when telling the story, but she says, when I was 15 years old, my parents would take me to, I think it was Louisiana, to go visit my Aunt Sylvia, who was a freed slave, but she could not read and write. And she said that in that journey to learn how to read and write, and she tells the story of learning how to spell her own name on the back of a church fan, and that being the moment when she really, what she said is that she earned her own freedom there. And I think that is something that's really important about those narratives, is that everybody has like these small personal struggles that actually have like great significance. You know, for her, it was something as simple as like writing your name, having that sort of connection with your name, and with like having the ability to really open up an entire world through the power of like learning how to read and write. But that story, what I think is so interesting about it is that it was kind of like, it's a kind of a family legacy that is being recorded. And I think that oral history is a really exciting way to like, or like a really like freeing way to kind of say like, oh, I want to record the stories that are meaningful for myself, but also for my family, for the stories that have been passed down through generations. Because so often, like, the more a story gets passed down from generation to generation, the more likely it is to be, you know, forgotten or left behind. So in recording the Aunt Sylvia story, that's, I think, a really powerful tool of like bringing memory and deciding like, this has importance for me, this has meaning, and I want to try and preserve this for the long run.
Yeah. And then just, you know, as I was listening to that story, it evoked a lot of emotion in me too.
Yeah.
I was like, wow. I mean, that tells you, I mean, she was a free slave, but she didn't really feel free until she learned how to read and write. Because it's like, well, I'm free, but I don't know how to read and write. I can't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
But now that I know how to read, you know, I have real freedom. And so this is the power of stories. This is the opportunity that organizations have to tell their story and to inspire action. And like, I'm sure StoryCorps has some really interesting and amazing stories during this COVID COVID year. I mean, we need to record those and say, you know, for generations to come, it's like, oh, really, that happened? Yeah, it happened. You know, so you know, I was listening to a StoryCorps story. This was a few months ago, right when we were in the middle of the shelter in place, and you know, it was a mother talking to her child about how, you know, the difficulties of having to, you know, teach them virtually and help them through their, you know, I've seen all kinds of little stories like that, which some of them were amusing and some of them were very, you know, heavy, but they need to be told.
Yeah, I will say, and I think that bringing up like the situation we're facing right now with COVID is very important, because StoryCorps, we have been able to turn our experience from these physical pop-up booths into the virtual space. And so since March, we actually developed and launched our own virtual storytelling platform called StoryCorps Virtual. And it's allowed people to record StoryCorps style conversations. So again, two people that know each other, that have that sort of rapport, but they can do that from in a socially distanced way, much like the conversation we're actually having right now. And what's really interesting about that is that when we launched it, we were thinking, okay, so we've been doing this thing for 15 years where we like take the booth around and people can kind of come in and record their conversations. Will it be too like radical to turn this into a virtual experience? But for some reason, it has actually worked that people have decided to flock and sign up and record stories on this platform. So it's been, I think part of it is because people have been really kind of itching to find a way to connect with others, especially we haven't, a lot of family members have been separate, Thanksgiving, this is for a lot of folks the first Thanksgiving that they're spending away from their families, or not be able to like travel to see folks that they love. And so our tools, our virtual tools for recording conversations or having recorded conversations have become pretty useful for folks who are wishing to make that connection. So that's how we're going to be recording conversations coming into the West Texas Permian Basin area.
Okay, so Nico, we're slowly approaching the end of our live stream. So tell us the who, what, where, why, where they can schedule their virtual conversation, and we're also going to be posting in the comments a direct link so people can schedule that, or if they want more information about StoryCorps, the West Texas virtual tour. So let us know, Nico.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are going to be, so the way that our mobile tour works is that we travel all over the country, usually 4 to 5 weeks at a time in a specific city, and we open our doors and open our appointments. All the appointments are free of charge. If you want to come, bring a loved one, record a story, and have that story be archived at the Library of Congress for generations to come. We're partnering with Marfa Public Radio from December 2nd. So tomorrow, we're actually beginning to record conversations all throughout the month of December till December 21st. December 21st is our last day of recording. That doesn't mean you can't record with us. Folks can feel free to download the app or record directly through our StoryCorps Connect app on the StoryCorps website. But if you want to have the experience of making an appointment, having our staff folks walk you through the entire recording process, it's meant to be a very accessible experience. So if folks want to record in any language that is not English, they may feel free to do so. If folks feel like they don't have access to technology, we'll try to work something out to make sure that everybody's able to record. But going on to storycorps.org, on our mobile tour, under our mobile tour tab, you'll see that West Texas is our current stop, Marfa in West Texas. And on that, following that link, you can feel free to book an appointment for yourself and a loved one to come and share your story.
Fantastic. Well, I am going to challenge all of our students, hear me, all of our students, all of our volunteers, and all of our followers to log on and tell your story. I mean, y'all have some amazing stories to tell, and we want to capture those and tell the world about them. Any last thoughts or information, Nico, that you want to share with us?
Just really grateful to be here, Alva, and thank you so much for the work that you do, and so much for all the, really excited to maybe hear some stories from all your students. And I really encourage everybody, I know that talking about the stories might be a little bit strange, but to go on our website, listen to some of these stories, click the links that are posted along with this conversation, and really just like envision the value of this in maybe your own lives and see if you could all benefit from this. I think it would be really great to have some folks come in and participate. Fabulous.
And I know, and we may get this question, Nico, after Rolf. Do they have to be recorded in English?
They do not. These stories can be recorded in whatever language feels best for the participants. We have bilingual Spanish-English facilitators and staff members that can walk you through the entire experience, and how we have all our paperwork, everything is translated Spanish-English, if that is helpful for your participants.
Perfect. Well, then our students have no excuse now. They got to get on there. Well, thank you so much, Nico, for joining us. This was wonderful. And like I mentioned, I love StoryCorps and I love the work that you're doing. And thank you again for joining us today.
Thank you, Alva. It was a pleasure.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.